Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Minkus, and over the course of this year, I focused my time and research on improving environmental education in classrooms. So just jumping on in, my internship and research focused on environmental education and ways that we can try to improve environmental literacy. Environmental education is very important, especially receiving it at a young age, because it has the ability to leave a lasting impact on children and alter the way they perceive and will perceive nature and the environment in the future. Because of its importance, educators need to find the best way possible to teach students and in a way that will maximize retention, passion, and involvement. Obviously, outdoor experiences have proven most beneficial, but that isn't always accessible to students in all areas or in all seasons. So I wanted to compare different types of in-class instruction methods and how beneficial they were. So over the course of my internship, I used both traditional and differentiated instruction methods in classrooms to gauge students' understanding and passion over the course of a 1.5 hour lesson. So going over some of that jargon and things like that. Traditional instruction is the standard instruction that we all probably know of that focuses heavily on teacher-based instruction consisting of lecturing, PowerPoints, and things like that, whereas differentiated instruction is when you tailor education around everyone's needs in the classroom. So for example, you're going to use different methods, such as not only will they use PowerPoints, but they'll also use other techniques such as art, role playing, buddy groups that where students can teach each other, and focuses more on students not necessarily teaching themselves, but fostering their own learning. So this kind of leads me into my research question, where I wanted to find out what the benefits and challenges of differentiated instruction and traditional instruction were in the field of environmental education. So for my internship, I worked with Oxbow Farm and Conservation Center alongside Ashley Lee. She's in my cohort. And we actually got to design 2 different lesson plans that we piloted in classrooms around Seattle. One revolving around native amphibian species and one revolving around sustainable cooking. We spent the entire quarter creating these lessons and practicing them on all of our friends before actually piloting them towards the end of winter quarter. The sustainable cooking lesson was a lot of fun, and we got to teach students how to make and source sustainable food, but the lesson was purely for the enjoyment of students and not for data collection, so it's not included in any of this. On the other hand, students who received our piloted lesson about amphibians were given multiple different forms of instruction throughout the course of their 1.5 hour lesson, and were asked to complete knowledge checks that consisted of drawings that were labeled or storytelling after both traditional and differentiated instruction. So we started our lesson out by lecturing the students with a PowerPoint about the species we focused on. And after that lecture was finished, we asked them to draw an ideal amphibian habitat or write a story about an ideal amphibian habitat. After they were done with that, we asked them to share and go over what they had done. And then we went into a role-playing game, which is sort of that differentiated instruction, where they embodied an amphibian. So it was sort of the game of life, but for amphibians, where they were forced to choose certain parts of their lives, like what habitat they think would best suit them given the season, or when they should cross a road, or if they should cross a road, using adaptations that they have to escape certain troubles, things like that. And so after numerous seasons of this game or rounds, as choosing their own fate as an amphibian, we asked them to again draw an ideal amphibian habitat or tell a story and things like that. So comparing the first and the second drawings after traditional and differentiated instruction, the results were fairly drastic, and all students showed like a huge increase in knowledge when it came to amphibian traits and habitats. Every single one of them showed some sort of improvement on their drawings or stories after differentiated instruction, with 73% of students showing an increased understanding of habitats, 37% of students showing an increased understanding of food webs, and 37% of students showing an increased understanding of adaptations. These numbers were calculated by comparing each student's first and second knowledge checks and seeing what was added, what was newly labeled, what was taken off their original drawings that they all created after traditional instruction. And along with academic results, students were more inclined to share stories and participate during differentiated instruction versus traditional instruction. Ultimately, we wanted to pilot this lesson in more classrooms and collect more data, but given the circumstances, we were only able to pilot the lesson once in a mixed age classroom. Given that the sample size was so small, it's hard to determine whether this is statistically significant or not, but large-scale studies have been shown or have been done on the benefits and challenges of differentiated instruction. And they show very positive results that are similar to this. Given the success of my case study and multiple year-long intensive case studies in classrooms that are done by academia, I can assume that differentiated instruction has a very positive corresponding effect on students' learning and achievement, and implementing this style of environmental education into classrooms in the future can only lead to a more well-rounded and passionate student. Implementing this teaching style has numerous benefits and fits perfectly within any science standard or curriculum that elementary students may have, and the benefits seem as though they were measurable. Teachers are starting to try and shift away from traditional instruction in classrooms, and I think that comparing multiple different case studies like this and large-scale ones will hopefully prove that differentiated instruction can be the future of classroom-based environmental education.